Welcome back, everyone, to the Writer's Parachute, where we are guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. Today, we have with us a very special guest. We have Kristina Lucia, and we're going to be talking to her in just a few moments about her book, her first book in a series, the Bella Lucia series. And it is Bella's Big Girl Bed. But of course, first we want to take care of some housekeeping for you. We want you to go ahead and smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe here on the YouTube channel, and of course, any of the podcast platforms where you would like to catch the Writer's Parachute. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Writer Parachute. That's Writer Parachute with no S. All right, well, let's get on to our topic of the week. Of course, we've been devoting most of season 2 talking about reviews. Reviews are king, especially if you are an author and writer. They mean the world. They are how your audience finds you. They are how people know about your book and whether it's good or not, who it's going to speak to. So we've been talking about how to get reviews, how to ask for reviews, how to get those paid reviews and those editorial reviews. We've talked about different platforms for reviews. We've talked about being a reviewer to get some noticeability for your books. So now we're going to talk about what to do with those reviews when you get them. So there's several things that you can do with those reviews. So you can post them on your website, obviously. So you can also post them on social media to get attention. Nothing is greater than seeing an amazing review by an author and you are more interested in that book. Also, Goodreads. Make sure you take advantage of Goodreads. It is a division of Amazon, but they do not have as strict guidelines as they do on the Amazon website, but do check the community guidelines on both. Make sure you're within their rules. Also, if you're doing a newsletter, you might want to include those reviews on a newsletter. Spread them out a little bit, build a little bit of interest. Or you could do a specific email promo anytime you get a great review. Even if you get a bad review, I've had those where I've had to rebut a bad review, but they're not necessarily bad. Maybe the reviewer is bringing up a good point that you hadn't thought about. Maybe you can address it in a later book, or maybe you can address it at that moment in that email. There's also your media kit. You're going to want to add some good reviews in there in your media kit. Your promotional material. Let's say you're going to send out flyers at a festival. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a few lines from a couple of reviews so people know about that book? These are amazing places to use those reviews to get you the attention that you need. Now, of course, this is not the exhaustive list. We just like to give you a taste of these things. If you would like to know more, you can reach out to the Writer's Parachute at thewritersparachute.com, or you can go on YouTube or your podcast channel and leave us a note in the comments, and we'd be happy to reach out to you. If we get enough requests on any particular subject, then we will offer a special episode where we will address some of these items and give you a little more detailed, in-depth review of those. So don't forget those reviews and what to do with them this week. So we want to get on with our interview. We are going to be interviewing a very special guest. It is Kristina Lucia, and we're going to be talking about her book, Bella's Big Girl Bed. Kristina Lucia, I will get that in a minute, is an artist, creator, and author who ignites the imaginations of children and their parents through the limited edition animals and touching storybooks. Her humble beginnings are in a small farm town. There was only one traffic light, sparked her creativity at a young age, and an adopted home of New York City keeps her inspired daily. Curiously curated creations of Kristina Lucia features a magical array of warm, cuddly, and comforting creatures, along with storybooks that help parents and kids improve their communication and deepen their relationships. Her crochet books and knitting needles are always within reach to whip up anything from stuffies to baby sweaters, while her kitchen table is often covered with her watercolor paints and brushes or freshly baked cookies. Welcome to the Writer's Parachute, Kristina. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Bella and I are very happy to be here.
Well, we're very excited to have you here. Now, I found that your book was a little bit different. I love the way that you kind of interwove fear and frustration and new techniques for parents for dealing with it, but also new techniques for children for dealing with their emotions. That was kind of a new kind of focused point of view spin on telling a story. And I really did like that. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here about that to just kind of get us started. So, why particularly children's books, and why particularly this character of Bella, which is an elephant?
So children's books, because I knew long before I declared myself an entrepreneur that I would create something for children
Mhm.
because my best audience are men and children. I'm not trendy. I'm very feminine, but I'm very classic. And so that ruled out a lot of feminine products because preteens and on, and I worked in fashion. It's very trendy, it's very fast moving. And I didn't feel comfortable designing something for men because I am so feminine. I feel that you really need to understand the needs of your audience, like if you're designing a product. And with kids, because I'm a very imaginative adult, I have a very strong sense of faith, and I believe that faith and imagination go hand in hand. And I feel when I'm my true self, when I'm playing or I'm not even being silly, just like being myself, being my imaginative self, kids get it and they gravitate towards it. And that was a big sign because I feel like when you're discovering who your audience is, you really need to keep an open mind and see what gravity it's like a bouncing ball. You need to see what bounces back to you. And that's what I felt was bouncing back. And so when it came down to it, I didn't realize I was going to be an author at first. I've always been an artist. Originally, it started with the toys. I had been making these toys for my friends, little kids, and their new babies. And someone thought there's a business here. And I thought the characters are going to lead me to an answer. And the characters made me to realize, oh, I'm supposed to write the children's series. And how Bella became the front runner in the series is I have her and I have another boy elephant I named after my cousin's little boy. And I felt like, and I realized people are gravitating towards the elephants, and people are gravitating towards this color scheme of the periwinkle and the pink. And so I thought, okay, again, audience is gravitating towards this. And what I didn't realize when I chose Bella to be the main character is I originally named Bella after my friend's little girl, Isabella, in honor of her. Bella's been my nickname for a long, long, long time, but I was embarrassed to admit it was my nickname. I thought, no, 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 I should put my friend's child first. Like, it'll be too selfish to make it about me. But as I started writing her, I realized, oh my gosh, my friend's baby slash now she's a toddler is helping me identify with my inner child and make me realize, no, I need to own this. And so that's the irony. It took my friend's 3-year-old to make me realize, no, I have to stand up on my own two grown woman feet and say, no, this is my nickname. This is who I am. And it's funny because I have an elephant memory. Like I had this crazy, insane memory. And so of all the animals I could choose to, and I do believe elephants are a good luck omen. So there are even more personal ties behind the elephant animal that gravitate towards me throughout the years and throughout like my favorite characters in other series. And so it really was a beautiful full circle moment when you realize, wait, I'm writing about me. And then, wait, I need to own this and I need to set an example for not only for myself, but for others. And that was a really huge part of my healing journey, huge part of me stepping forward. I feel as an author and a creator and an illustrator, I'm like, this is me. Bella's me. It's my nickname. It's she's me.
Well, and I think that comes with this. I think, as adults, we tend to think that, oh, we're just going to speak to children. We're not going to relive our childhood, but what we're speaking tends to be what we've experienced. It's that
Yes.
child that comes forward. So what age would you say that your books are recommended for? Because right now you have 3 out. There's a 4th one, and you said there's going to be 9 before the end of the year. Is that correct?
There's going to be 6 before the end of the year.
Ah,
There's 15 in all. I'm actually illustrating book 9 right now.
ah, okay.
The reading age level I aim for is between 3 to 7 years old. However, I sincerely believe they're from newborn to 10 years old,
Mhm,
because I really believe that children are a lot more intelligent than we give them credit for. I
mhm,
also believe the book is as much for you as for your child.
mhm,
And I think it's important not to set a limit on it, because you never know when you're going to need this. And also, reading to your child, it's
mhm,
a very intimate experience. Like when the baby's in the womb, that's
mhm,
bonding between you and your spouse.
mhm,
That's you developing a routine with your family. It's
mhm,
also conversational, as your child gets older. Like, it's funny, my mom's cousin, so her daughter, my second cousin, has 2 young children, and the little girl is my nephew's age, and she's going through this transition right now. And when her grandmother, my cousin, read it to her, she clearly was like, "Grandma, no, I'm not moving out of my crib." Like, but it was it was really cute, because she got it at 2.5, almost 3 years old. Like, she got it. So you never know how kids will gravitate. And even if your child is beyond the
mhm,
bed transition, you
mhm.
never know when that transition could help them with another transition. Because there's something about
Exactly. It
realizing,
isn't always
yeah,
just about the bed. And,
yeah,
and this is a kind of a conversation that I hear a lot is people are like, well, it's listed as this age, but I really think and you're right. A lot of the age ranges that they put around books are set by publishers, and that's just for them setting them in bookstores. So I would say you're probably pretty accurate that it's kindergarten through probably 6 or 7 years old, and that's
yeah.
typical for a picture book. But again, you're going to get overlap into younger and older ages, and that's just books in general. So not
Good.
everybody within that targeted age range is going to be the only ones reading it. So I
Yeah.
want to know what you would like readers to gain from your books. And let me list the titles here. We have Bella's Big Girl Bad, which is book 1. We have Bella Gets Dressed, which is book 2. We have Bella Learns to Read, which is book 3. And the upcoming one is book number 4, which is Bella's Big Girl Bike. And then I know there's a whole big list, but these are the only ones that I know about. So what do you hope that readers gain from those books?
I hope they gain that transitions are difficult, and it's okay for them to be difficult.
Mhm,
And it's okay to feel both the negative and positive feelings.
mhm,
And about taking these transitions, like, for example, some of the later books, like the book I'm illustrating right now, Bella Goes to Paris, because Paris is my favorite, one of my favorite. Not it is my favorite, but it is one of my favorites. Like, I just love that city so much. I go every year. Now, if you're someone that says, well, I have no interest in going to Paris, well, it's really not about that. It's about she misses her friends when she's there. That's really what it's about.
mhm,
And and enjoying the sights, enjoying the beauty of a new place. And so my hope is that you can take that away and say, oh, we're planning a trip to, let's say, because I'm on the East Coast, oh, I'm planning a trip to California.
mhm,
How can I relate this to our trip? How
mhm,
can I apply things, like, because it was something that happens in that story, for example, when she says she misses her friends, her mom says, well, why don't we sit down at a cafe and write postcards? Maybe on your trip, you write a postcard to a grandparent or an aunt or uncle or your friends. So that's what I really hope, is that it opens that door to communication, to relatability, but also to you taking the story and applying it to what works for you. Like, I'm not a believer in this is what works for me. It has to work for you. I don't believe in that. I believe in adaptability. Like, for an example, like I was saying to you before we started recording, you know, I'm the out of towner in my family, everyone else, and we are all grown. We all have separate houses. We all run our houses differently. And when especially my sister, because I stay with my sister, which I am forever grateful for her, my brother-in-law for always letting me stay with them because it gives me extra time with my nephew. But I'm OCD, but I observe how my sister cleans her house.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how, and I make an effort to mimic how she cleans her house. And if she says to me, hey, Christina, can you clean it this way? I make an effort to happily agree because to me, it's not about the cleaning. It's about me being a good sibling, being a good sister, being in that home. So it's the same with my books too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your child's already beyond certain things or if certain things don't work for your child, like for example, like in Bella Learns to Read, one of the ways she learns her letters is she plays with her letters in the bath. And I realized not every kid loves bath time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some kids adore it, some kids don't. You know, okay, so maybe it's a different it's a
Mm-hmm.
different time of day that your child plays with letters. You know what I mean? I'm not, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why I have the activities beyond the book section. So
Mm-hmm.
I can make, and another book too I have coming out, actually coming out this year is Bella's Halloween costume. And it's written in memory of my mom. My mom was an amazing sewer, made amazing things. And I could easily see a mom or dad reading that and say, well, I don't sew. And so when I'm doing activities beyond the book, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, what can I bring to the table that people can say, oh, well, maybe I can sit down with my child and we can draw out costume ideas. And then we can go on Amazon and look for costumes, make it relatable. And
Right.
that's why I do activities beyond the book because I get it. It's hard. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I hear stuff and it takes me a minute to be like, okay, wait, how am I going to adapt this
Mm-hmm.
to what I'm going through and what I need
Right.
in this moment? And we're human.
Right.
It's some
Well, and I
all
could,
different.
I mean, just not even reading the book, I could imagine could spark the conversation of let's go to a thrift store and see what we find and see how many
Yeah,
costumes we could come up with.
yeah,
Because
totally.
that and you need to spark that imagination in children. It's how they develop. It's how scientists develop, is imagining what is possible, and it has to start as a young age, which is why we as authors are always pushing that imagination
Yeah.
to go forward. So I want you to think about going all the way back to the beginning when you started writing and deciding on these books. And I want to know what you wish you had known or that somebody had told you.
I I wish actually, I I feel really good about the whole process. What I am grateful for is that, and this is my faith and imagination coming into play. I did have some hiccups when I first started.
Mhm,
I was working with a different team.
mhm,
From working with that team, though, I realized I saw signs that it wasn't working. And when I walked away and saw the reaction to me walking away, I knew I made the right decision.
mhm,
But what I learned from that experience is that when you're doing books, you need to work with people that know the book industry. And that goes for any industry. And that's a big thing when people ask me
mhm,
questions like this. I tend to say, like, find people that know books. And that's where I usually refer people to my editor
mhm,
because my editor has a really great community. And that's how I met my marketing strategist and my publishing agent. And
mhm,
it does make a difference when you do that. The other thing that I was grateful for myself is standing up,
mhm,
which I continue to do with my books, is stand up for myself in the sense of when you are, especially when you're writing children's, people's inner children come out at you a lot in the sense of it's like this little girl or little boy is coming out at you and is jealous. Why can't she have the slice of cake and I can't, kind of a thing.
mhm,
And they're missing, and their critical parents not coming out and saying, but wait, they're not all of us are meant to do this.
right.
And
Mhm,
a why, there's that why. And so that's the other big thing is standing up, like something. So I am Catholic and Bella's are blessings at the end of every book. And, I was cautioned about with my old team, my editor, even when we first talked about the Bella's Big Girl Bed, the first book we edited together. Actually, we edited one other book prior to Bella's Big Girl Book, which will come out later in the series. We decided to shift it to later for various reasons. Which is not in a bad way, in a good way, because we got excited about other titles I had. And we're like, no, we got to get this in first. And all the excitement comes in. But I stood by it, and I'm grateful I stood by that, because the mission of my books is communication, and with communication being your true self, feeling your feelings, being able to communicate your feelings. And being my true self is an American who's from a Catholic family, who's from an Italian family, who is a devout Catholic, who has an extreme sense of, and I would say extreme, but a huge natural sense of faith, a huge natural sense of imagination. I mean, to the point where people can be like, how can you believe in that? I'm like, well, how can't you believe in that kind of a thing? And so that's what.
And that is a very good point, because, at the end of the day, whether you have all this amazing team around you or you're just struggling through on your own, that book is your book. You're the author. Yes. You're the one that always has to defend it. It is a reflection of you. And so I absolutely agree with this, getting that team behind you. Now, does it have to be the highest paid editor? No. Does it have to be the best marketer? No. But you know what? It needs to be somebody that believes in you, what you're doing, and then has the experience, or can get the experience and knowledge to push your project forward, because you're the person leading the team, and you have to kind of, even though they're giving you information to help you, you have to have, a plan. You have to know where you're going with that. So that's critical, and it's very important, and a very good point, and I appreciate that. So what do you think readers and parents are going to think of your books and your book series in 10 to 20 years from now?
Oh gosh, I hope my dream is that the kids that are being introduced to it now are coming to me and telling me how they're gifting it to the next generation. I hope they're coming to me and telling me, you gave an example, that there's a space for me, that we all belong. I still am the black sheep. And these books have given me, are giving me a voice. They're giving me a voice that I'm not the odd duck in the room. I also feel too, because I've always been artistic. Like I told you, I'm actually in the dance studio right now. Before we started recording, I finished, I had a coaching. And so I'm still actually in my dance gear of all things. That's just who I am. I'm a dancer. And I've always been an artist too. And I see more adults come to me that have a child version of myself, this overly creative child. And it's like, how is my child going to make a living? How are they going? And that's why I had difficulty at first, until I discovered I was an entrepreneur, and until I discovered, oh my gosh, I'm an author. And so when I discovered I was an author, it was like that piece of the puzzle of my creativity that was missing. And I feel that I am setting an example for these parents, for these kids, that yes, there is a career in your art. There is a career in your creativity, and it's a beautiful opportunity for you. And it's a matter of you being your true self. And so I do imagine those kiddos too are saying, Christina, you gave me the courage to be the accountant I dreamed of, or you encouraged me to try out for that Broadway play, or whatever it is, whatever creativity that is you find for yourself. Like I do dream of that. And I do dream of the next generation, this generation gifting it to the next generation. And I do actually already joke, because one of my dreams is to be, which is a matter, I believe it's another how and when. I do believe I'm going to be a regular on today's show. I do believe I'm going to be a regular on Jimmy Fallon. And I keep on joking. My nephew is now a little over 2.5. And I keep on joking he's going to go into kindergarten and be like, my aunt was on TV last night again. And his teacher's going to be like, wait, your aunt's Kristina Lucia? Like, wait, what? And, but I believe I'm doing this all for the kiddos that are already reading my book, showing them that the sky is the limit. And it's so beautiful that you talked about the topic of the season is reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So when my marketing strategist and I, when we were getting ready for Bella's Big Girl Bella to come out, Melanie told me, that's my marketing strategist, Melanie Hirschhorn, absolute amazing strategist, I can't speak highly enough of her. She's just unreal. I adore her. She said, okay, we're going to get advanced reviews from you. And she walked me through the process. And I was like, all right, how many advanced reviews? She said 50. And my first reaction was like, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was working on getting to 50 and having those moments of frustration, and I had a moment of fear, but it wasn't a fear that I wouldn't reach 50. It was a fear of how am I going to reach 50? Like I knew in my heart I would reach 50. As I got close to 50, Melanie said to me, let's up it to 75. That way we can spread it between your first 3 books.
Right.
Well, not only did I make it to 50, in the end, I got 77 advanced reviews.
Which is
And to
nice.
me, yeah. And to me, that was a big lesson in believing in me,
Right.
believing in me, being open to possibilities, knowing, okay, I might have to adjust the strategy. I might have to adjust things, but I'm going to make this goal. And so it's like everything with like, when you wrote back to me and agreed to have me on this podcast, like that was a huge moment. Like, oh my God, we have a podcast that focuses just on writers. Like it was a huge moment of like, this is a sign. Like it really was. And I'm so grateful to be here. And it's like that openness. And yes, there have been other podcasts for books that I haven't been able to land. But I'm like, it's okay. Because when the time comes, you're going to land. This door is closed because another door is going to open. And so I believe that too. And I realize that's beyond my books. That's kind of, that's probably a broader business vision, but I also see people that have read my book, that are reading my books and are curious, like, but wait, how did she get started? How did she figure this out? Like, I do see myself as being a case study down the road. And the kiddos that are reading my books now in college that are going for those business degrees or whatever degree it is to start the next thing or start their careers, being like, wait, but how did Kristina Lucia do this? Like, what was her, how did she figure this out? What was her
Right.
success story?
Exactly. So I want to know what kind of obstacles or challenges. I mean, you sort of mentioned a few of them, but let's kind of nail that down a little bit more. What obstacles or challenges did you run into when you were writing and publishing this book?
I think, again, it was a lot of communication because I do so much of the creative on my own, because I write my books, I illustrate my books. My editor is amazing. I adore my editor, Susan. Like she gets me. And that's like when you said earlier about like editors, like I agree with you. I think it's very important to find a team that gets your nuances, get your energy. That's really huge. And so even that, like when I said about blessings, and like Susan and I had a very like open, heartfelt conversation, and we understood that when it got down to the book layout, again, that was another thing, because when you're putting in a layout, like, figuring things out, and again, having the courage to go back and saying, okay, well, what are my options here? And something else I'll show you in Bella's Big Girl Bed that I do. So this is in all my books. On every text page, there's a rose. And that's an illustration that I did for my godchild. My goddaughter loves roses, as well as do I. Roses are my favorite flower. They were my mom's favorite flower. I believe in Saint Teresa. She sends me roses as a sign. And I wanted that for my godchild. I wanted her to know that her rose was in every book. And I wanted her to know she's part of this. And my layout person originally said that could be cluttered. Let's not do it. And I said, no, we need to do this. So it's not about the rose, it's about the communication. And it's about, again, going back to like, even with me admitting like Bella's me, Bella's my nickname. This is who I am. I think.
Well, and I would have had a different reaction, because what you just did is specifically branded your book. So every time a child or a parent reads them and they see that, that rose illustration, they know it's your book without even looking at the cover. They know it's your book.
Yeah.
They know it's your story. So I would have had a different reaction. So do you have any advice?
Yeah.
For other writers and authors?
I feel you need, my biggest thing is have, especially with children, make sure you have a mission, because that will make life a lot easier when you start your process. I know for me, I had an idea of my mission, and luckily my marketing strategist, Melanie, was able to fine tune it with me very quickly and very effectively. Because even when you are, regardless of what side of the pond you're on, whether you're on the traditional publishing or self-publishing, the mission will make or break you. And that's really important. The other big piece I have that I've been saying a lot is open your heart and mind to find out why you want to write. My editor, Susan, actually taught me this because I didn't think I was a writer. Even when I was writing these books, even when I was deep into it, deep in the trenches, I still was kind of like, oh, I'm writing a book, but like, I'm not really a writer. And my my editor, Susan, said, you're a good writer. You're not only a good writer, you're a capital W writer. And she explained to me what that is, and that when you're a capital W writer, you're a translator, meaning that you do have a high level of sensitivity, you have a high level of awareness. And yes, it makes it harder for me and others of this pond to fit in, because we are a bit of a unicorn in the room, but there is that responsibility of translation. And I think for me personally, realizing I was a capital W writer gave me the realization, okay, this makes sense, because I am the face of my brand. I create so much. Like, I dream of the animation. I dream of like all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I dream of all these big things. So when people approach me and say, well, I want to write a book, but I want to do what you're doing. Like, but there's so many different types of writers. And so that's my way of saying, my piece of advice is identify what you want from the books. Like, some people write books because they want to become a thought leader and they want to start a master class, or people just want it because they just want it for themselves. And that's good. That's great. And I highly recommend reaching out to someone like my editor, Susan, that is open-minded and that has a really good heart and will genuinely listen and lay it on the table. Because at the end of the day, you need to make that realization, not the other person. And I think my editor, Susan, does that really well. I think she has a really big heart, and I think she's very good about listening and not pushing people into categories. And so I really pray for anyone out there that's like looking, be like, I want to write this book, but I don't know why I want to write this book. Like, I pray that you find your way to that person that will guide you to the water and allow you to drink it.
Right. And what I would say, and I talk about this because sometimes the mission becomes a little bit of a mountain to climb in the beginning for new writers. So I say, just tell a good story, because the story will tell you what your mission is. And
Absolutely.
if you have that story inside of you and it's pushing you to come out, then you are a writer. And our only job as a writer is to shine a light on an idea or a question, but never to answer it, because that's not our job. Our job is just to shine a light on something and see how the world accepts it and responds. So, I mean, as long as you're telling a good story and you're shining the light on something that you find interesting, then the rest is everybody else's job.
Totally. Agreed. And that's like the biggest thing too, at least like as a children's author for me, is that the reason for communication is my background in my healing journey, and realizing, oh, this is what's been missing. And being authentic about that, and being open about like my work and why I do what I do, why I write what I write. And like you said, it shines a light so people can adapt and people can make it what they need to take from it, at the end of the day, because you never know what someone needs. Only the spoon knows what's in the tape.
You never know what your words are going to mean to somebody else. Even if you didn't intend it, it's
right.
What they take from it. So I want to know what keeps you motivated, because you sound like you're a super busy woman like I am.
Oh, totally. I feel my one big thing that keeps me motivated is the day I got my first piece of mail addressed to my LLC was the day I lost my mom.
Oh,
And when my mom was ill, she passed very quickly, and I made her a promise that I would be positive. And I was fortunate enough that my great grandma was well and alive when I was born. Unfortunately, she passed when I was 3 years old. So unfortunately, my siblings didn't get this opportunity, but I did have the opportunity of having a picture at my baptism of 4 generations. And I am named after my grandma. That's why I'm a Lucia. My baptismal legal name is Kristina Lucia. However, I decided to use my mother's maiden name as my pen name so that everyone is on the book with me. And my logo that I drew, which is on my website, is Bella holding 3 roses. And so it's basically me and my mother Trinity is what I call it. So that's a huge thing that keeps me motivated. The other thing that keeps me motivated is my goddaughter, my nephew, and all the other kiddos in my life that know me as Auntie Christina. I feel I have a responsibility to them. My nephew inspires me so much. Like I said, I'm a baker and I bake like my mom. I bake all the homemade Italian cookies, and I always bring something when I go out there. And for people out there who are listening that know that have toddlers that are like that, like me, that are an aunt of a toddler, they're not always full on eaters, and he eats and picks, but I have watched him on more than one occasion eat different types of my cookies from start to finish. He eats my chocolate hazelnut cutouts full on. At Christmas, I was eating a wine biscuit and he asked for one, and he not only ate the entire thing, but he kept it in his hand while he was eating it. And like just seeing him eat something that I baked and I brought to the table, I'm like, wow.
So you're
I want to be the
multi-talented. You're
best.
feeding their mind, you're feeding their soul, and you're feeding them physically. So it's like, wow, you are covering all the bases. So we're going to switch gears a little bit here. We've been focusing the second season on reviews. So I want you to review Bella's Big Girl Bed. Sorry.
Oh, I feel it's a touching story that allows parents and children to connect on a common level. It's a reminder that we all go through transitions, that we all feel all the feelings regardless of how old or young we are. I am very proud of my illustrations. They are near and dear to me. I always put little Easter eggs in there. There are nuances, and it's a pleasure to introduce you to Bella's world. If it's okay, can I read the dedication I made for Bella's Big Girl
Sure,
Bed? Is all right.
absolutely.
So this dedication, this was the first book, and I always have a different dedication for each book because I feel like I want to make sure it's personal. This first book is dedicated to my Trinity of angels, my great grandmother, grandmother, and mother, who are always at my side through this whole process. These books are love letters between my mom and I, which I wish to share with all the kiddos of the world. Special thanks to my dear friend Sue for writing this note to me at the beginning of this journey. Congratulations on the books, Christina. Your mom would be so proud of you. Love always, Kristina Lucia, XOXO.
Oh, that is so cool. See, and I love that review. And the whole point of me having my guests this year review their own books is because we want everybody to see how easy it is. I'm putting them on the spot, making them review their own book right then and there. And if they can do it at the snap of a fingers, then you can do it. You can write a review. They don't have to be complicated. They could be, I simply like this book, or this book wasn't for me, or I believe this book would be great for my niece, my nephew, this person of this age.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be complicated, but we encourage everyone to write reviews and share them with the world. That way we can find the books, we can find the authors. The reason I do this podcast is to introduce my audience to authors and books that they may not ever find. We want to expand their knowledge, expand the reach of every author, because putting a book in a child's hand is like opening the world.
Oh, totally. Agreed. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
What is next for you?
Oh my gosh, so many things. So I have a fourth book that's going to be coming out, as you said earlier. I also have I also am working on my first coloring book for the series as well. I always storyboard before I go into doing illustrations. And so I'm working on the first coloring book. I'm also going to have my first activity book coming out this year as well. So I'm learning the logistics of the back end of that. So there are going to be 6 of the 15 books. There are going to be 16 books coming out this year. I believe the coloring / activity books, that I have 6 in all in the queue, and 2 of them are coming out this year. And so I'm just super excited for you guys to see that. You know, I do hand create my characters. So like I am going down the journey of figuring out manufacturing so that I can make the characters more accessible to people, and, you know, working on so many different things in the back end, you know, working on creating events, getting bigger outreach, you know, always looking, luckily I got the podcast thing down, which I love. I love being guests on podcasts. I'm so grateful for you and all the other podcasters out there that open your doors to me and allow you to tell me my stories. That's like always something that's cooking and happening. But yeah, it's and I'm dreaming big here. I know my book's going to be made into animation at one point. Like, I do believe I'm going to be talking to intimate audiences like this, as well as bigger audiences, because I do believe I love the intimacy of podcasts. I think there's something magical about this kind of intimacy that we can't capture anywhere else. But it's also exciting, like thinking of talking in different venues and whatnot too, because I feel like it's important to, as an author, to be rehearsed and be able to be flexible and adaptable and whatnot. So yeah.
Absolutely. So we want to know where they can find your books.
Absolutely. So I do have an Amazon page, which I will resend to you so that you have that. I also have my website, www.tripplecokl.com. I will also send you all my social media links. I'm on Instagram the most because it seems like that's where my audience is. Although, like anything, like we all say, we're on every platform you can possibly be on. And I do have a gift for your audience too. Like I said, I create coloring drawings all the time. And so I have a coloring drawing, which I would love to share with your audience. So I'll make sure I get that to you as well.
Oh, that would be amazing. So we will include that. So you don't need to grab that pen and paper. We will have all the links for you in the show notes. So she did say her website is COKL. That stands for Curiously Created Creations of Kristina Lucia. I'm making sure I'm pronouncing that right, .com. So we will have that included in the show notes for you. Also, she's on Instagram and on some of the other social media links. We will put that up for you. And we'll also put all the links to Amazon. Are you on any other platform besides Amazon for purchasing your books?
So I do believe, I have to double check it, but I believe Target and barnesandnobles.com have my books as well. Let me double check that.
Okay.
For anyone listening, I'll make sure I get you the links for that, you know. So we're yeah. And I'm working on branching out on like where you can purchase my books. It's funny though, because I imagine other authors are getting similar feedback. Everyone's like, oh no, I like Amazon because it's one click and it ships and da da da. So like, but
yeah,
I do.
we like to give people options. So what I would tell tell
totally
anybody
agree.
if they're looking for a book and they're looking to see if it is in other stores, like we like to support some of these independent bookstores as well. You can go to
Absolutely.
Google and just Google the title and the author's name, and it will tell you every available retailer that carries that book. So if you're ever wondering, but we will have all of the links for you in the show notes. So is there any upcoming events that they should know about?
Yes. So I do IG lives a lot. I'm
Mhm.
also a blogger, so I'll keep that up. I actually am, if you're in the New York area, I am working on planning a coloring event. I don't know, it may be before this podcast is aired, but like I am working on figuring out how I can do live events because I do believe in connecting live. And it's funny when you said about independent bookstores, because I am looking into those possibilities too. That's another thing I have in the queue, a possibility of doing an in-person event in a bookstore. And I'll be honest, like, so my friend's little boy, who ironically is my godchild's brother, so he's like, for example, he's into sports and I'm an artist. Like I'm from a family of jocks, but like I'm the artist. And thank God for bookstores, because I walked into a Barnes Nobles children's department. I said, okay, my friend's kiddo, he's 9 years old. He loves sports and he's very advanced for his age and intelligence. What do I do? And so at the end of the day, you cannot beat brick or mortar. Like we need people, like people need people. I sound like Barbara right now.
Well,
But yes, so
and
I
it
am
is
working.
true. This is, it is a dying industry. And so we do like to encourage people to go to these independent bookstores because it is difficult. While we try to promote books and authors to you, if you're looking for something specific, then go check out one of the actual bookstores where you can talk to somebody that works there that understands all the books they offer and all of the things that may be best for you and your child or for you yourself. So I just want to ask, is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go do our tip of the week?
I I wanted to say thank you again for having me, for giving me this opportunity to talk so freely about my journey and my writing journey, my illustrating journey. And I appreciate all of you that are listening, and I would love to connect with you. I genuinely believe in relationships. That's also why I do believe I took on the endorsement of being a capital W writer. I believe that my series is a relationship with you.
Mhm.
It's an honor. It is an honor, and I'm excited for the honor to be welcomed into your home and to be welcomed into your daily routine. And I'm here to stay. I want to be, I want my books to be a part of your life and make a difference in whatever way they're supposed to be. If I can, to me, if I can help one person, I've already won. And the more people I can help,
Absolutely.
it'll be amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to connect our story to the right child at the right moment. So that's a laudable goal for you. So let's go ahead and move over to our tip of the week. We talked with Christina about some of the things that she ran into that really were good and some of them that were really not so good. But the thing I really want to key on is this thing she talked about finding this team, not just the team, finding the right team. We're talking about editors. We're talking about marketing specialists. We're talking about illustrators if you are not the illustrator, talking about designers if you need somebody to do the design work, cover designers if you need somebody to do that. There are many, many other professionals out there that will help you get through your book. I myself am a writing and publishing coach. If you need help with writing or if you need help with publishing, there are people like me who will help you. But again, it has to be the right team. I'm going to use editing as an example. There are so many different kinds of editors. One editor may be recommended to you, but their style may not suit you. Some people prefer very critical editors that go line by line and go, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, you need to fix this. Others need a gentler touch. They need to be, okay, this is not quite right. Let's see if we can go at it again. And you have to decide what works for you, because no editor wants you to feel defeated. No editor wants you to feel like they're being too harsh or not harsh enough. So you have to find one. So, again, you may not find it first time. So I always encourage people to get samples and recommendations before they actually employ that team, and not be afraid to say, this isn't working, I need to go in a different direction. This is, at the end of the day, it is your book. It is a representation of you, not the people behind you, although they do a lot of the work for you, and you certainly would like to appreciate them and give them kudos where they're deserved. But I want you to think a little selfishly in this particular instance when you're putting your team together, because you need that team to work flawlessly to get you where you're going with your book. So that's it. That's everything for this week on the Writer's Parachute. I want to thank Kristina Lucia for joining us today. Go out and check out her Bella's Big Girl Bed in the Bella Lucia series. There are a bunch others. She's having more and more coming out all the time, so keep checking with her. We'll have all of her links in the show notes for you. Again, thank you, Kristina, for being here this week. As always, I am so grateful to be the host on the Writer's Parachute, guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. And I hope that you find this a creative space for your dreams to land too. Until next time, bye.